Hi, Kim Knight here, aka the Kiwi Health Detective. And today what I want to talk about is the effect that our beliefs can have on our health. Now, a lot of people would not tie those two things together. And a lot of people also would not tie emotions to health. But we are a complete being, a holistic being, which means that we have a physical aspect, we have a mental aspect, which is where the beliefs come in, we have an emotional aspect, and we have a spiritual aspect. And that is our totality. And so if we're looking to identify the cause of a problem, whatever that problem is that's turning up in our life, and that includes health issues, then we need to look at all aspects of ourselves. And so today we're going to focus on the role that beliefs play in the creation of symptoms and illness. Now, the way I like to look at it is that we can have certain health beliefs and we have certain core beliefs. So for example, a health belief would be you get sick when you fly on planes, right? And you might like to ask yourself, do I have that belief? So some people will have that belief and some people won't. And according to that belief, they're much more likely, for example, if they have a belief that I'll get sick when I get on a plane, when I fly on a plane. If you have that belief, then you're much more likely to actually get sick when you fly on a plane. So that is why I wrote my little handout, the Health Beliefs Guide, which you can, there's a link below here to get that. It's a free white paper. So I'm not talking about that today, that'll be another video. What I'm going to be talking about today is our core beliefs and how these relate to illness. And we tend to have beliefs that relate to ourselves, to others, and to life. So there are three levels that I like to look at in terms of anything that relates to us in our life. It's either totally just ourselves, or it may be in connection with other people, or it may be about how we view life as a whole. So this is the way it works. We get results in our life. We live in a universe of cause and effect, and actions have consequences. So we end up with results. And those results can either be results that we like or results that we don't want. And that can be in any area of our life. So it could be in health, it could be career, it could be finances, relationships, friendships, anything. We end up with results, and we'll either like or not like those results. And what is actually driving those results are behaviors. So how we behave in the world will lead to results. And I'm going to give some examples in a minute. And these behaviors will, initially a lot of our behaviors are unconscious or semi-conscious. So we can have a lot of habits and behaviors, and that could be a habit or a behavior may be a mental habit or a behavior, so that means a pattern of thinking, or it may be a behavior of the way we do things in the world. So for example, let's say somebody is always running around, really busy, never really taking time between appointments, always pretty stressed, on the go all the time, working 12 to 14 hours a day, 5-6 days a week. That is a habit and a behavior. And for some people, they may be doing this unconsciously. They may be thinking, well, this is just how I do it. Or they're probably not even, if it's unconscious, they're probably not even thinking that. They're just doing it. They're not questioning it. It's just like, this is how I am, and this is how life is, and this is how I do life. And then as we become more aware of ourselves, we start to become semi-conscious of our behaviors, which means we know we're doing them, but we still don't know how to stop them. So we may be aware that, oh my goodness, I'm working 12 hours a day, but I just don't know how to do that differently, right? And as a result of that, that will lead to a result. Now, in terms of health, the sort of result that is going to lead to is potentially illness. because our body is built for balance and homeostasis. And if you watch the stress video, it talks about this homeostasis. Homeostasis is very critical for the body because it needs that to stay alive and to stay healthy. And so if we're doing our life in a way that is negating that balance, then sooner or later our body is going to give us some feedback in the form of symptoms that, listen, I can't do this, I can't be driven like this anymore, it's too hard, you're expecting too much of me, and so I'm going to feed back with some symptoms. So we end up with results, and initially even the body can be feeding back these results, say, of illness. So let's just say, for example, we're talking illness here as a result. Then initially, even though our body may be feeding that information back to us, so we may have a sore neck or stiff shoulders or headaches and migraines and pain and fatigue. Initially, what is really interesting is for quite a while we can still be semi-conscious of those results. We can tolerate and put up with discomfort for a long time as a human being. It's very, very interesting. I remember when I was in London 25, maybe 30 years ago, that's where I came from the UK, and this was before I knew any of this. I was what I would call a very, very unaware person. And as far as I knew, if you had a problem, you just went to the doctor. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with going to the doctor, but it's not, they don't offer all the solutions necessarily. And so I tweaked my back. I tweaked something in my back when I was cleaning the windows in my 3-story apartment in London. And I felt it go when it happened, but I'd never ever hurt my back before. And so I just sort of carried on, and I had no idea, I'd never heard of an osteopath or a chiropractor or anything like that. I had no idea that there was anybody else that could, no other health professionals apart from going to a doctor or a hospital. So I just sort of carried on, semi-conscious of the fact that my body wasn't quite right, but it wasn't bad enough for me to not be able to move. It was just uncomfortable and limiting, slightly limiting. And I carried on like this for 3 months, and slowly it got worse, just a little bit worse every week. And one day, about 3 months later, I was sitting on my bed trying to put a sock on, and I couldn't put my sock on. And I thought to myself, you know what, this can't be right, that I can't lean over and put my sock on. And that's when I started to become much more conscious of what was going on physically, conscious of this result. And that was when I started, made a decision, okay, listen, I have to do something. This is just too debilitating. It's preventing me from living my life properly. And that was when I started to do some research, and that was when I found an osteopath for the first time in my life. And then, of course, I went to see the osteopath, and he said, you should have come to see me straight away because now your body has compensated and it's set in. So there's a little tip for you, is that if you hurt your back, and I had many years of hurting my back after that, and there were much deeper reasons for it. It was the physical end result was an end result, and there were much deeper reasons, which it took me about 20 years to work out. But if you hurt your back, then I do recommend that you go and see somebody as soon as possible, because that helps the healing process to kick in much quicker, and you save yourself a lot of angst. So here we are with results, with behaviors which we could call life depleting behaviors, because they don't enhance life. So running around 12 to 14 hours a day, never having breaks in between appointments, not taking time to eat properly, not taking time to sit and relax, that is not a life-affirming behavior, right? So the interesting thing about this is that there is something driving those behaviors, and that something is in the unconscious. And this is the tricky thing, is that until we become more aware, we're not conscious of what we're not conscious of, or we're not aware of what we're not aware of. And so that is why one of my favorite phrases from one of my teachers is, all healing is awareness, becoming aware of what we were previously unaware of, and then we have new choices. And This is so true. All healing is awareness, becoming aware of what we were previously unaware of, and then we have new choices. So what is it that is lying in the unconscious that we're unaware of? Well, you probably guessed. It's our beliefs. It's our beliefs about ourselves, about others, and about life. And these beliefs, obviously, if we're ending up with something that we don't want, and we're running life-depleting behaviours, then probably we could say that these beliefs are unhealthy and they are limiting because they limit us. And the interesting thing is they're usually transparent, which means they're there, but we're operating through them, but we don't know they're there. And another way that I like to describe them is they're false, because they're not the truth about who we are, who other people are, and what life is about. But a belief is a very powerful piece of information that is in our consciousness that we see through and we believe it to be true, but we don't know that we're seeing through it. So this is very tricky. So for example, an unconscious belief here may be, I'm not worthy. And that's a very common belief. So that's why I'm using it as an example. Most people that I work with, and I include myself with this one, is that essentially at a deep, deep level there's a feeling of I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, I don't deserve good things, I don't deserve to be happy, all that sort of stuff. So we're running a belief, I'm not worthy. And the interesting thing is, our beliefs must match our behaviour. They must match. So our behaviour will match our beliefs. So as you can see, if we're running a belief that says I'm not worthy, then are we likely to have behaviours that match being worthy and looking after ourselves and respecting ourselves? No, it's going to be virtually impossible actually. And this is where people get stuck, where it's typical, for example, people wanting to diet. You know, yes, consciously, I want to have the behaviour of eating well and eating healthily and being slim and fit. But if you have a belief underneath that says, well, I'm not worthy of being beautiful and receiving positive attention from other people, then we're never going to create that behaviour, which is why we start a diet and, you know, on day 2, boof, it's out the door, and then, you know, next week we start all over again, boof, happens all over again. So this is why we really need to get to these beliefs that are sitting in the unconscious and identify them and do something about them, clear them, which is possible, and also change our behaviour. And the two go hand in hand. And sometimes we can change our behaviours without changing our beliefs, and that is very much what mycotherapy does. It teaches people how to create life-affirming behaviours where we act authentically according to our best version of our authentic self. But sometimes we need to go a little deeper, because some people are running very, very deep, strong beliefs here which have created real ruts in our brain, in our neural pathways. And those neural pathways have become very, very strong. But that doesn't mean they can't be deleted and new neural pathways created. So then you're probably asking, well, what has created those beliefs? Well, everything that has happened to us in our life leads to beliefs. And usually these beliefs are created, we take them on sort of through osmosis from the people that we grow up with, the people around us as we're growing up. Literally, you know, we'll take on our parents or our caregivers' beliefs and we won't even know it. And also through, so we could say conditioning, and also through events, whatever happens to us in our life. And often these are traumatic events, not so pleasant events. So for example, say a child grows up in a family where parents are not getting on, they're always arguing, they're always fighting, then and the father leaves. And that's very upsetting, that's an upsetting event for the child. And the child There's a lot of emotional response to that, and at the same time as the emotional response creates a belief such as, men that I love leave me, right? There's no conscious recollection that that belief has been created, but it may be created. So there's a belief of men that I love leave me, or I don't deserve a man that loves me, right? And then that will create a behavior. Say they go into a relationship, then that creates a behavior of maybe pushing men who seem to display affection towards one away. Because this here in the unconscious is really running the show. It's apparently about 90%, whereas our conscious is more 3% of weight, if you like. So of course the unconscious, this huge supercomputer in our unconscious, is going to win out. It's much stronger. And remember, our behaviors must match our beliefs. So men don't love me, or men who love me, or I can't remember what I said now, but I can't receive, love from men. I'm not worthy of receiving love from men. Whatever it is, and then we create a behavior of maybe pushing that person away. And then what's the result? Well, the result is we don't have a relationship. So this is how our core beliefs can end up creating results in our life that we don't want, such as illness. And so it's really important that we start to become aware, because this is much easier to become aware of behaviors initially than beliefs. You can start to identify your beliefs by observing your behaviors, and this is why awareness is so important. And you have to start becoming aware of every little thing that you do in your life, how you do it, how you think, the thought patterns that are going on in your head, and then you can start to become aware of those beliefs. So I hope that has been helpful, and I look forward to talking again soon.